Hi guys, Yannick Chauvin once again for Yannick's Photo School. Today we're going to look at the CLS system from Nikon. CLS stands for Creative Lighting System, and we're going to look more specifically at how to set up your camera with your pop-up flash to use your pop-up flash as a trigger for your remote SB800s or SB600s. The example today will be with SB800s because that's what I have. I have the Nikon D300 as my main body, but I know that the D60, the D80 also have the pop-up flash that can be used as a remote trigger as well. Probably other models as well, but just check in your manual to make sure that you do have that option with your camera and your pop-up flash. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is go through the steps to make sure that your SB800 is set up properly for remote triggering, and then we're going to go through the camera menu and go step by step and set up your pop-up flash as a remote trigger. So we're going to be doing close-up shots of the menus of both of those items, and I'll come back and conclude. So the first thing we're going to do, it's a two-step process. We're going to take our SB800, which is right here, and we're going to set it up to make sure that it is in slave or remote mode and that you got the proper channel and group. Now before we go into that, I want to explain a little bit what's a channel and what's a group. A channel is just a wavelength, a radio wavelength, just like a TV channel. You got ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS. Those are all different channels that run on different frequencies. Well, it's the same thing for your SB800. You have channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. The reason why they have different channels is that many photographers can work, well up to 4, can work in the same area without triggering each other's flashes. By default, I always set mine to channel 2. Why? Because most photographers by default will keep channel 1. So that way I'm pretty sure that I'm safe if I'm around other photographers shooting Nikon and remotes. And for groups, a group is actually, you can actually control 3 different groups from an SB800 or from your camera. 2 different groups plus your pop-up flash can also trigger, so that they can have different intensities, and some can work on TTL, some in full manual mode. So it gives you a versatility so that your creative lighting can be creative. So let's get right to it. Let's look at the SB800 menu, and then we'll look at the in-camera menu. Alright, here we have our SB800, and this is the main panel. Let me just turn on the LCD light so you can see better. Now, as you can see, by default it's at TTL, which means that it's programmed to trigger from the camera. Now we don't want that. We want it to be triggered remotely. So let's go back. Let's go into another menu. By doing that, you just press the select button and hold it for a few seconds, and then another menu appears. Now you can scroll up and down that menu by using the plus or minus keys, and you can set up your SB800 to your liking with LCD brightness and everything else. But what interests us today is this menu right here, where you see all those squiggly arrows, and you can see a sub menu on the side here. Right now it's at off, and you have other modes. What interests us for today is the remote. We want our flash to trigger remotely as a slave. So we just click select again, go down, make it so that remote is highlighted, press select again, and you'll see a little arrow appear on the side of remote. That means your flash is now ready to be triggered remotely. That's step 1. Press select, hold for a few seconds. You'll be back to your main menu. As you can see, the menu has changed. Up on the top left you got your channels. On the bottom right you got your groups that I explained earlier. And you can see that it says remote in big letters, so you really can't miss it. By default you'll have channel 1 and group A. For the purpose of this exercise, let's leave it at that. But if you need to change it, all you need to do is press select, the channel gets highlighted, and then using your plus or minus keys you can change the channel. Press select again, group is now highlighted, and using the plus or minus keys, you can change your groups. Alright? Now make sure that it's on channel 1, group A for now. Press select again, and everything's there. And that's how you set up your SB800 to be a slave. Now let's go into the camera and set up our camera to make sure that it triggers it. Alright, here we have the back of my camera, the D300. First thing we need to do is to press the menu button. Now the menu might vary from one Nikon to another, but it's basically the same. The first thing you need to do is to select the custom setting menu, which is this little icon, pencil icon there. Once you've done that, you can just move with your cursor here with a round dial beside your camera. You can just go up and down your menu options and go to E, where it says bracketing flash or something in the notes of flash. Once you've done that, you can either move right on your dial or click OK. OK would be down here for me. And you get into the E menu options. Now you want to look for flash control for built-in flash, which is another way of saying pop-up flash. And for me it's E3. And as you can see, by default it's at TTL. Now we don't want TTL, we want it to act as a trigger. And the proper way to say it is commander mode, which is your last option here. Now you can either press OK, or you can see with the little arrow there, you move right. And you got your menu here to control your flashes. Now this is very, very cool. You can control everything from in here. Your built-in flash right now is set to go off in TTL mode. Let's say for the purpose of this exercise we only want to trigger our SB800. We don't actually want our pop-up flash to show. Oops, let me go back in here. Doesn't last very long. There we go. So all we need to do is, using the up and down functions on my wheel, I want to make sure that it has those two lines there. That means that it will not trigger. Once you have that, move right or left, and that'll bring you down to group A. And you got to remember that our flash is on group A, so that's the one we want to set. Now you can leave it in TTL mode, or you can also bring it to manual mode, AA mode, and back to TTL. Now I usually shoot either in TTL or manual mode, but for the purpose of this exercise I'll show you manual mode and how to control the intensity of your flash. So select M and then use your arrow key left or right, and then you'll have beside it the intensity of your SB800. So you got, right now it's at 1/5 power, using the up and down keys, 1/4, half power, up to full power. And you can go down to 1/128th of a second, not a second, 1/28th of power. Let me just show you here briefly. There we go. So to this lowest capacity. Once you've done that, you want to make sure you have the proper channel, and of course it's channel 1. If not, you can always move up and down to select your channel. We'll leave it on channel 1. Now what's important now is to press OK to keep the selections in memory. If not, it will not keep them in memory. So click OK. And you can see that you've done a change because it's now showing that it's in commander mode. And that's it. That's all you need to do. If you need to change the intensity of your flash, you don't have to run to it if it's far away. You control it all in camera. Just go back to that same menu, lower or bring your intensity up for your flash. It's that simple. If you have a second group, just select it there. Make sure your flashes are in group B or C, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the creative lighting system, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Alright, so now I've taught you how to set everything up in the menus of both the camera and the SB800. Now we want to test it out, make sure it works. So the next thing we need to do, and this is very, very important, is to make sure your pop-up flash is up. I've seen so many posts on forums saying it's not working, and the first questions any person with experience will ask is, was your flash up? And most of the time the answer was, oops, It wasn't. So make sure your pop-up flash is up. It needs to be up because it will do some lighting magic to connect with your SB800. Alright, so that's really, really important. Now let's test it out. You just focus here. It worked. So there you go. That's how you set up your CLS with a pop-up flash in commander mode and your other flashes in remote mode. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This is Yannick Chauvin signing off from Guess Busy.